Hello. Hopefully I have everything set up right this time so I can actually see my chats. I think I can see Twitch, but I don't know about YouTube. That's always a wild card. We'll see. Basic plan, we're just gonna hang out. I'm gonna try and make a Vue project from scratch. We'll see. Probably won't get very far, but project I've already semi-made before in React. So I don't know how much of this we're gonna get done today, because I don't know how long I plan on streaming, but we're gonna see if we can at least get a grid to appear like this, and then maybe get some other stuff going. But this is like the first project I did to learn React, so we're gonna like take this a little bit and just see what we can do. Yeah, should be fun. I have no idea what I'm doing, so we'll just guess get started from scratch. Of course, I've done a little bit of voice crack, a little bit of Vue before, but I've never done anything like the scale of that React project, so we'll see. I go ahead and create the Vue project, and I'll probably get set up with like a GitHub repo. Let's see. We can just do this. Vue 3 with Vuex4. Probably going to skip the TypeScript for now, although I probably shouldn't because I don't know how to use it, but that's okay. Details. And then we'll also create a repo for this and see what we can do. I think I already have Pathfind out the repo, but I haven't used Pathfind in the repo. So we can use that. Description, Vue project for a pathfinding visualizer. So we got to get the keywords in there. We don't need anything else. We'll just create the repo. See what we can do from here. All right, cool. We have that. We'll cd into pathfinding. We'll do a git init. And then we'll go through all these steps. We don't need anything else. We'll just say git remote add, git branch, git push, and then we should be good to refresh and hopefully have some stuff up here. Cool, 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 cool. Now, I guess, let's go ahead and open this up in VS Code and see what we got. Okay, so already have the Vuex stuff. We probably need to move this store into what is it, like a Vuex store with modules. You can already see I've searched some of this before. So ideally I'd like to do some kind of module system so that I can not have everything in the same store page. So let's see if we can figure that out. If I remember right, it should just be this, and then we just import the modules, right? So we grab this, we say these are our modules. We only have one module, but this looks like TypeScript, so that's fun. Does look like TypeScript. Okay, so let's do what we always do. We just go find another tutorial we've made, and we just reference that one. So what did we do last time? Let's go into 20 and 20. Week 15, front end, source, store, index.js. Looks like we just declare a module. Let's do that. So we do what modules, and then we'll just give this, I don't know, like, what do we want this to be? I guess we need, do we need a node module? I don't know. So I guess if we, let's see, draw a diagram. I think that's what it's called, or maybe it's diagrams. It's definitely not that. Diagrams, whatever this is. Yeah, so what we can do, have a grid module, have a node module. Now what would the difference be? I guess like a node module would have, let's see, UML. No? Okay, I guess I can just click this and let's clear this. Node would have something like it's got, let's see, a node would have like a type. It would have a weight, because if we want to do weighted algorithms like Dijkstra's, we're going to need a weight. So type, weight, I guess is a start and a finish. I guess that'd just fall under type, right? Start and a weight. I guess like a width and a height. Don't necessarily know if that's if that's something we actually need. Would you want to store that info? I don't know. But let's say we have this, so we can get rid of node. Just name this node. We have the grid, and the grid is also going to have some of these fields. Oops. There we go. Grid. Grid's going to have like, I don't know, X and Y, so width, going to have a height. And if I remember right, last time I had a bit of trouble dealing with, like with this grid right here, when we had the nodes, because you want them all to, if I come back over to Pathfind out, you kind of want all the nodes to just like average out at the edges of the screen, so you don't have like half a node like you do here. I think last time I ran into some problems with that because of how I was calculating things, until eventually I just like set the width and the height of the grid in terms of pixels, and then I calculate the node width and the node height. Maybe this needs like a node width and a node height. Maybe. Let's see. How do I insert? Can I just copy pasta? I can't. Oh wait, maybe I can. What if I paste this and just drag it in here? Do that? Maybe. Hey, there we go. And node height. Cool. The grid has many of these. We just grab this, drag an arrow to it somehow, maybe. Okay. I don't know. Sure, why not? That's just not really trying to model a database here. There we go. Okay. All right. We have that. We have the nodes. Then we also need, I guess, a list of algorithms, right? So what do we have here? We had Dijkstra's, A star, breadth first, depth first. So I guess what we did last time was we had like the descriptions for each one. We had whether it was weighted or not. I don't actually know if I stored that. What did I do? What did I do when I made this in React? Let's go take a look. Let's see. For all my repos. Source. This was really ugly if I remember right, because I didn't understand the concept of a store. So for me, a store was just like a series of files, which is just a nightmare, right? Yeah, so it looks like I had a name, a summary, and then I guess I was working on like which type of data structure you could use. So you could go through and like select, let's see, settings maybe? Yeah, I wanted to be able to select like different types of data structures for each one, so you could see like what the runtime difference between, you know, Dijkstra's with the priority queue or Dijkstra's with something else was. But I think a lot of this was pretty janky because I didn't really understand how React worked at the time. But after that runs, it should find the node and then show you the path. And if you have like A star, it just works better because it's just a better algorithm. Don't tell Dijkstra I said that. So let's actually leave this off for now. So I guess the plan for tonight, we can just try and make a grid and try and get some nodes on the grid and maybe go from there. Hopefully, assuming I can figure out what I'm doing, either with my life or with this project. Okay, just here. Make sure everything's working. Hopefully it's working. Okay, cool. So for this, we'll have a module. We'll just say this is the grid module, I guess. Right, that's what we decided on with this one, maybe. Come back. Here, index, yes. So we just have a grid module, and then we come in here, we create a new folder, we call this modules. And then in here, we just create a grid.js file, and that should have all of our stuff. And then we're going to need to import that. So say import grid from at store modules grid. Cool. That works. And then we can come over to our grid module. And then in here, we need all of our mutations and stuff, which hopefully I have one in here that I can just copy pasta. Like I do. Is the whole API ready for us too? We can just get rid of all this, get rid of, I guess, all of this, and this, and this, and all of this. So I don't know how much of this we're actually going to get through, but I figured this might be good. Localhost port 8080, and then we can do npm run serve. Cool. Awesome. Okay, so let's get rid of the styling. And let's get rid of the image. Get rid of, I guess, this text right here. And come into our components, hello world component. And probably just get rid of this, right? Well, I guess let's just grab this, delete this. Delete component, and then we'll say component, new file. We'll call this a grid.js. I lied. Shouldn't that be like grid.view? Am I dumb? I'm probably dumb. Grid.view. I guess the bright side is I didn't call this like learning view with a very competent teacher. I just called it learning view live. All right, and then we can paste this in, get rid of the styling. We can leave the props for now, and let's get rid of all this stuff. Let's just say h1, hello world. Cool. We need a style tag. All right. We probably also want to, let's do that. So let's get rid of this, and we'll say style, and we'll do a scoped. Okay. Refresh, this should still be broken. Then we come into here, we import grid, registered but not used, of course not. And then we say grid. Hey, we did it. All right, now let's see how to do the grid itself. Yes, the first question is going to be component name grid. Doesn't have a prop for string, but it will have, let's say it'll have a, I don't know, a width, which is going to be an int, I don't know, integer. And it's going to have a height, going to be an integer. No idea if that'll work. It doesn't. What about int? Does that work? No. Number. There we go. Okay, cool. It gets us that, and then we can come into here, and then we'll say width, the 200, height, 200. That work? Maybe. Who knows? And then I guess we can say, let's see. We want to do, well, let's do like some kind of div. We'll just say div with a class equal to, I don't know. Just give it a test class for now. Close the div, come down here, and we'll say dot test as a border of, yeah, sure, why not? That works. Okay. And then we'll give this a, I guess, the width and the height that we would expect it to have. Really no idea what I'm doing. I made absolutely no effort to plan this out before I went live. So let's see. We can do, I guess we can set the width equal to, how do we use props in view? That's a good question. Is it something like this? This dot width. I guess we want to start with height so we can at least see it work, right? Height. Probably not how you're supposed to do it. View set div view use props in template. Sure, props. Makes sense to me. Post title is a prop, so you would just do that, but you would have to use it in there. It looks like they're not using it in here. Interesting. Use something like this, maybe. Doesn't look like it. Do like style, and then we could say height is that, maybe? No. Okay. All right, we're stuck. That's good. That's where the learning happens. Okay. So, view set height from prop. That's just going to be like something where we call from a function, maybe. Style looks like they are passing it in somehow. A little strange though. A lot of this seems strange. Let's set height and width. I'm not trying to deal with responsive equals true. I'm just trying to set it somehow. Set height plus equals. A lot of this seems, well, I guess this is how they're doing it, right? Computed my styles. Okay, that's fine. So I guess for that, what we can do is we can say, I'm assuming they're using like my styles. Yeah, styles is my styles, but they're using that for a line chart. I think that's from like an actual chart thing. Some style from props. Might want to look for like template width, maybe. Let's see. Let's see. Style, yeah, so they're just setting like width and height like that, I guess. Very strange, but I can work with that. Don't even know what I just copy pasted. Let's see. Oops. If they're doing something like this. Don't need this. And we don't need this. Well, I guess we can leave that. Like that. And the height like that. Maybe. They're gonna blow up? Probably. Oh, I see. Like that still seems a little bit unhappy with me, so let's full screen this. Missing quotes. Oops. There we go. Okay, so it's like it has a width now. The height's not being set. Oh, because I'm missing the pixels. Plus px. Hey, there we go. That's a box. That's sort of what we were looking for. Okay, so I guess we can now set that. So I guess the way I'm thinking of this is we're going to use the app to figure out how much real estate the actual box needs, because one of the problems with the old system, if I can pull it up, was this was entirely just embedded. So if I come over to dnan.com and I tried to embed this, it was strictly like running off of an iframe of this full website. So if I come over here to Pathfind out, it's like a full embed of the website. You can see here it's missing some of this stuff. And what I always imagined doing with this was if I go here and I look for like pathfinding tutorial, I wanted to make like an educational website where you can just sort of browse through it, click through different lessons, and then like maybe a lesson covers Dijkstra or something, and you just have like a small little pathfindy boy in there, like this, that just sits in the page, and it's like, oh, today we're going to talk about Dijkstra. So you can like run the default example, and then you can like try to play around with it so you can learn in the web page. But because of how this worked, I could never, like, it would have taken a lot of, excuse me, a lot of refactoring to get this to embed properly. So what I'd like to do is get it so that like the parent of the component can say, in this page, your width is, you know, 400 by, I don't know, 350, and then that causes it to resize. And then you can have multiple pages where each page has like a different topic, and then it just embeds one of these, and then maybe down the line it can also, in addition to like passing in a width and a height, it can say, you know, pass in this node list or something. And then this can just be like a, I don't know, JSON object that just has our node list in it. And then you can like load up a page with a set, let's see, where is it? I guess I closed it. Pathfind. With like a set algorithm or something where you're like, okay, well, I'd like the, something like this. And then I want to like show a star as like a finished, either a finished result. So I guess you would pre-compute and possibly store the last run. Or you could do something like just an initial setup like this, and then just have them like click a button, and then that button would run the algorithm. Something like that. Of course, that's all very far in the future, because right now we just have a box. So I guess now let's see if we can maybe in this grid create a series of nodes? Question mark? Guess that would be good. Well, let me just make sure. This last time I was streaming, I couldn't see chat. I just want to make sure I can actually see the chat on YouTube. Also mute myself. I don't want to listen to myself. No, stop. Anything but me. Yeah, so I can't see chat, so I have to leave the actual live stream open. That's unfortunate. Okay. So, let's see. We can come into here. This would then create a node. I guess we also need a node component. Node.view. Just copy paste the grid into there. Do we want each? I guess I don't know what the actual overhead of a view component is, because like, how expensive is a view component to render? I don't want to do something where I'm rendering like, you know, hundreds of, well, I guess not hundreds of thousands, maybe just like thousands of these, and then it like brings everything to a crawl. Let's see. Using templates, blah, blah. I guess there's really only one way to find out, right? This will be a node. A node will have a node width and a node height. So this will be, I guess in here, yeah, let's just leave it node width and node height, because that's probably a bit better. Just from like the parent passing in the props or whatever. And we'll also do this, and then I guess we can come into here. Call this a node. It's also going to have a, it could have a type. The problem is if I give it a type now, I don't know what my types are going to be. I don't have my types defined. I really don't want to deal with that right now. I'll just leave it alone for right now. But we can come into here and we can say, okay, this is our grid. And then our grid does, I don't know, some kind of view for loop. Well, I guess for right now, we can also just say, this is a node. Something like that, right? Pass in a width, which is going to be, let's say 25, and a height equal to 25. Let's see. That work? Probably not. Node width and a node height. Totally know what I'm doing. Okay. So also have to probably, I guess, import that, right? Import at component / node. Something like that. Maybe. Node is defined but never used. Isn't it used up here? How did we do it last time? Imported that, and then in here we just said components. Gotcha, gotcha, gotcha. Gotcha. Okay. Comma, components. And then this is a node component. Not resolve, components node. Really? Oh, I guess here I did dot slash. Strange, but okay. Do this. I guess if it's in this path, we can just do import node.view. We can't, apparently. Am I dumb? Probably dumb. Let's see. Oops, at components slash node, right? I'm pretty sure that's how that works. How do we do it in here? Just fish until we find something that worked. We did at slash store. Okay, so it'd be at slash components. Gotcha. Gotcha, gotcha. At slash components. Okay, so that's a node. Let's see. That actually looks like it has some padding around it or something. Let's see. Got the border. Oh, I guess we clicked on that. Oops. Okay. Specifically click on this. We'd also want this to have like a, let's see, give this a grid. Just a grid. Should still work. And I guess we want this to be a flex. Oh God. CSS flex box. Hey everyone, let's make fun of the backend developer who doesn't know how to center a div. Yay. Okay, display flex. Display. Right. This is why whenever someone makes fun of a backend developer or a front-end developer, I cringe a little bit because let's face it, we would all be completely lost if we were trying to do any of this manually. Let's see. Where am I going? I'm in here. This would be flex or inline flex. Okay. This establishes the main axis. Single direction layout constant. Think of flex items apparently either horizontal. Okay. So I guess we would want to give the grid a flex direction, right? So we'd say this and then flex direction. Ooh, or we could do something like that. So like a grid would have many rows, many columns. I guess a grid would have many rows and a row would have many columns, something like that. Maybe. Let's see, how would this work? You'd want to do something like, if you're coming into here, let's say you have a for loop, right? So for, I don't know, int I equals 0, I is less than whatever length, I plus plus. Oops. You then come in here and you'd have for j, and you come into here, and then for each of these, you would want a row, and then your outer loop would be a, well, I guess each of these would be a column position. So j is column position. And then I would be your row position. So in your grid, how do I do a view for loop? Let's see. That's what I was searching for before. Okay. Li v-4 item in items. So I guess like you would have a node in a list of nodes, or you would have a, you want to do like for a set amount, which would probably be a calculated set amount because you would have like a number of nodes you would need based on the, I guess the width divided by the number of pixels you would want each node to be, and then you would have to average it out so that you don't end up with any pixels cut off on the side of the screen. So for each of those nodes, you would then say, okay, or I guess for each of the, yeah, for each of those nodes, you would add them in, and then you would go down one for your next one. Why is this so confusing to think about? Why can't it just be normal JavaScript? Oh my God. Okay. Okay, so let's try this. Hey, how's it going? You here to watch me suffer? For anyone that's wondering, I'm live on Twitch and on YouTube right now, so if I'm talking to one chat, I do apologize. Just one of the problems with having most of you over on YouTube and some of you on Twitch. Yeah, how's it going? You excited to learn some Vue with me or to watch me struggle? Okay, so let's see. We can take this. We have a node width and a node height. And then we do a, I guess, a div with a v-4. Is that what we decided on? Yep, v-4 equals item in items. And then key will be item.id, probably. The way I'm thinking about this is, oops. We would probably have this running off of a Rails backend. Hey, how's it going, Clear for Blue? We'd have a Rails backend. Each one would pass back like a node with an ID. We'd have a node in a list of nodes, right? I guess you could also pass it back as like a row and a do a row and a column. I don't know how much of that you'd want to do in the back end, I guess. Like if we come into here, we cd into code, come in streaming, the pathfinding, and we do like Rails new, I don't know, pathfinding, or I guess backend maybe. Just call it backend, keep it simple. Rails new backend, -- API, something like that. No idea if that command's right. Yeah, I wasn't sure if I wanted to do the live streams initially, because like a lot of me coding is just me floundering about trying to figure out what buttons to press. But I've had more than one comment from people where they're like, you know, you're just this wizard who just manifests code on screen. And I'm like, no, I actually don't know what I'm doing. Most of us don't. We just, you know, we rehearse a lot. Like this is normally what I do when I'm on my own. So I thought, you know, it might be fun to just have people watch me learn. And, you know, the first live stream was pretty fun, so here I am again. But today it's a bit of a bigger project. I've been wanting to do this one for a while, so let's see. cd into backend. And then we can do a code dot on this. Well, actually, let's do this. Let's, we have it open over here. Yeah, we'd come into here, we'd generate our nodes, and then we'd say each, I guess you'd have you'd generate a grid. A grid would have a node type. And then, or it'd have a list of nodes, so like one to many. So a node belongs to a grid. Grid has a bunch of nodes. You create the grid. You would probably click save or something on the grid layout. Node has, well, you wouldn't want to save the width and the height because the window is going to change each time. So what we could do is we could say Rails G model. You would give a node or a grid a list of nodes. You probably just read it left to right, top to bottom, so something like that. Each node would have an ID. Okay, so let's see. For node in nodes, we don't have nodes yet. We do this, and then in here, yeah, because the problem is if you're saving the grid, your grid is going to only be it's going to be saved based on the previous state, I guess. So you would also have to save what the width and the height previously were, because like, let's say I come in here, or I come into here, I save this, and then I go back to this page later, I get it from the back end, And then the back end says, okay, here's your list of nodes, but suddenly like my grid looks like this. So my choice is either to like save this information like this and just pretend this is the edge of the world like I did here. Or what I could do is I could resize the nodes, but that seems a little bit weird, but I do have to be careful to make sure I use the same dimensions I did last time. Otherwise, I might like have this block over here, this block over here, 2, 3, 4, and then like this block starts over here, and then we're back over to here, something like that. You really don't want that, and everything will be off a bit. Yeah, that is, it's something I need to keep in mind, I guess. All right. We have our list of nodes. We would come into here, and I guess we need, what is it? It's not, it wouldn't be props. It would be our data, I guess. Probably. Our data would just be a list of nodes. And then maybe like a num columns and num rows is something we would need. Yeah, let's just say num columns. Should be a number, and a num rows, which would be a number. And then we get both of these from the back end. So you'd have a grid which has a like a list of nodes, right? The model node. It would also have a would have a previous width, previous height. So we'll just say num columns is an integer, and it would have a num rows, which is an integer. So you have a list of nodes, the number of them in each dimension, and then what else would you need? You don't care about the individual nodes width and the individual nodes height, right? Because those numbers can change based on how big it is. So if I resize this just a little bit, each node gets a little bit bigger until it becomes a multiple of 25 pixels, then it resizes. That should be fine. So let's just leave this like this for now, because I'm not actually going to generate this. I'm just using it to keep track of where we're at right now. But okay, we have our list. I don't think this is how you actually use data, so let's see. View data. And this, of course, this is going to be going into the store that we set up earlier. That'll be our grid. Our grid will have our num rows and our num columns. Components, I guess. Basics. Yeah, data, function, return, whatever. Okay, so let's grab this, come into grid. Yada, 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 paste it in here. Cool. So what do we got? Unhappy about something. That. Save. Maybe. This is probably not going to work. Unexpected token, expecting comma. Comma here? Or is it a comma here? This one matches up with this one. Gotcha. So we just need that. We don't need that. The comma there. Okay. And then this is still missing an end tag because we made some stupid stuff up here. That's fine. Okay. So we can say this has a number, num columns, num rows, say 10, I guess. Okay, and then what else will we need? We would need a, let's see. Obviously need a start and an end. We'll need a, yes, a list of nodes. Okay. Nodes, which will have, let's see. I don't know. We'll just Just do something like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Something like that. And then we'll say this has like something like that. Of course, I still have no idea what I'm doing, so this is probably wrong, but we'll see. It's said about something. Always is. Expression, comma expected. Oh, I see. Boom. That, maybe. Yes. Okay. Now we can say for node and nodes. Then we also have a node ID. Yeah, so each one of these would have like an ID, right? Something like this. Nodes is an array of objects. I think I'm doing this right. Then we got like ID of 1, type of, I don't know, basic. And then we put in a comma. And we just copy paste this a few times. 2, 3, 4, 5. 2, 3, 4, 5, right? We can do that. That should be similar to what we're expecting in terms of our data. And then we go find wherever I put this tab with all the stuff right here. Refresh. It's probably upset about something. And it still is. Okay, so v-4 node and nodes. Let's this. Okay. That's good. But now what we want to do is instead of this, we want to do this. But this div right here is upset. Key is equal to that. That seems fine. That should be tabbed over. Oh, I see. All right, there we go. Okay, so now we're generating those. So, okay, progress. What do we do next? Yes, when the grid is called, it'll have, like we said, the number of columns and the number of rows. So we would want to take in the back end, we want to calculate that. But for right now, what we can do, since there is nothing, we'll just want to calculate it in here. So we'll say, like, I don't know, what is it, created? I guess. Although that probably needs to be like a created function or something. Let's see. Created. This work? Seems to. Okay. Alert. Test. Let's do that. Hey, that works. Okay, cool. On created, we want to grab the width of the window and the height of the window, I guess. And then we'll want to take that and say, I guess divide it by whatever the node size should be. I think in this application, this was a decent enough node size, and I'm pretty sure this was just 25-ish. Looks like it was. Okay. We'll do that. Come back over to here. Let's just move this to tab 1 so I stop losing it. And then let's grab this one. Let's actually put this one tab 1, that one tab 2. Okay, so we want the JavaScript window width. Inner width, inner height. Okay. I'm assuming I can grab those. So let's see. Alert. Inner width is, we'll say plus window dot inner width or something. Refresh. Oops. Refresh. 837. Is that true? Seems fairly true. Okay. And then we can say the width and the height that we're doing here would probably be, I guess this thing's data, right? So however we did data in here, data was a function that returned some crap. So grab that, put this in here after this. We have our data. Then the data will have a width and a height instead. We'll say this has a, has a width and a height. Width will be 100, or I guess we'll say 400. Height will be 400 just by default. And then, yeah, that's fine. In here, we'll say the width that we pass in is width. That work? Maybe. So what happens if I set this to 800? Okay, cool. And we can see there that the alert fires before that does. That's also good to know. Okay, so we got the width, we got the height. We'll set this in here. We'll say height. Get the mustaches. Get rid of that alert before I throw something. And then here we'll say this dot width is equal to window dot inner width. This dot height is equal to window dot inner height. We save that. That does not seem to be working. That's fine. Let's see. Is this why? Does this need to be like this dot whatever? Oh, that seems to do something. This dot height. Yeah. Oh, okay. That's a shame. I almost know what I'm doing. Not quite, but we're getting there. Okay. We set this to be 400 and 400 here. There is a chance that I don't know what I'm doing. And one of these just isn't firing the way it should. So how do we set view? I don't know. You set data in created. Not called creative? Created? Creative. Am I playing Minecraft right now? Let's see. Component render function. Don't know what most of this means. That's fine. RVM, that's okay. We have a list of items. This is not reactive, not reactive. Interesting. But here it looks like it doesn't take this function. Is that a view 3 thing maybe? Is that just because I was returning maybe? Probably not, but we'll see. That's what it looks like it was there. That might just be because it's view 2 though. Let's see. Yeah, this is for view 2. Take a look at view 3. View 3 set data and created. Data. Const data blank is blank. Okay. Something like this. Interesting. And here we're setting the dot height, this dot height. This should all potentially be working. But I might also just be doing this wrong. So we grab the width, we grab the height. Are these this is needed? Is it ambiguous? I don't think it is. Props, num columns, num rows. Okay, well that doesn't matter. I have too many of those there. We come into grid. Grid is this is not forcing its own size, right? Yeah, so this just takes in the props. That's fine too. All right. Let's see. If I set this to 200, this to 200, it looks like this is no longer. Yeah, okay. Let's just, that seems fine. Okay. So we have our width, we have our height. We're trying to set these. Doesn't seem to care. Although oddly enough, this is just flexing across the whole screen. So that's probably because we set this to be a flex. So can we not set the height of a flex? I wonder. If I say the height is 800 pixels. Thought we were doing this a second ago. I guess we weren't. Maybe that's why it's not working. We have our flex here. What happens if I get rid of this? Okay, so that okay. I guess that's fine. It's closer, right? Okay. So give this a flex. We say for var node in nodes. And then what happens if we pass in, I don't know, like 10 of these? Or I guess more of these is what I should say. So let's just copy paste this a few times. Make sure we copy paste it correctly though. We want this, right? Yeah. So paste this in. That looks good. Gonna have duplicate IDs or whatever, but paste in a few more. Okay, so that's where it runs into issues. We have a display flex, but now we need to give it like a uppy downy motion. The technical term, of course. Let's see. Flex wrap, maybe? Oh, but this would be the layout that would cause it to go boom if we messed up. Because this would be the one where it would just go left to right, up to down, and then if your window size changes, then everything blows up. We don't want that. Okay, so what we would want instead would be, I guess you would sort of want a flex wrap, right? Like a not quite real flex wrap. But what you could also do is you could give a, let's see, you could give the grid a list of rows and a list of columns, and you could store those instead of just storing a list of nodes. That would allow you to, so let's maybe try that. Instead of doing a num column and a num row, we could say a grid has many rows, has many columns, each of them has many nodes. Or you'd say like a grid has many rows, a row has many columns, a column has many nodes. Is that how you'd want to do it? Grid has many rows, row has many columns. The question is going to become when you resize it and you get rid of like a row, how does that affect the rest of it? I think that might be a question for future me, but I'm not entirely sure. So if you were to do that, let's say we were to give this a row and give this a column. How would you store this? I guess you'd want to say this, then the grid creates many rows based on the number of items. Before row in rows, the key would be the row.id. And you'd say div v-4 or call, oops, equals call in columns. Just name this column. No need to be that lazy. Key is equal to the column ID. Right? Then you come into here and you say, that's the node. This would also have a rows number and a columns number. And then this would have the rows and the columns. Okay, so this is starting to make more sense to me. I think some of these things can probably already be removed. Like I don't think we need the num rows and the num columns anymore. Because that's sort of taking care of the back end holding on to that information. Hopefully, in an ideal world. assuming I set this up correctly. So we have a number of columns and rows. One belongs to the other, maybe, or a grid just has both. And then it would loop through. So let's say you had both. You would, I guess you could also just have like, the issue is, I don't know if I'm making this, I'm probably making this more complicated than it needs to be, but that's just because like I don't fundamentally know what I'm doing. But I could have the container of all the rows or all of the nodes, or I could have the nodes broken up into columns and rows as like a calculated data type. That seems far more complicated than it needs to be, though. So you could also just give like a list of nodes. Each one has an XY position, but then how do you loop over it? I guess you would just have to... not entirely sure how to do this, honestly. The problem with the last one was, when we created this in React, we had like a whole bunch of spaghetti code that just kind of made this happen. And I'm trying to avoid that, where things are actually like semi-cohesive from the get-go. So with this one, we didn't necessarily calculate the number of rows and columns. It was just when this gets resized, you can see here, it just adds in more. So like there was no persistence even between this. If I refresh, it's always going to reset. The only reason this comes back to something that looks the same every time I refresh is just because this is using simplex noise. And if we come in here, you can see it has a seed. So this is always set to the same seed. If you change the seed, then your generation changes. But like, again, if I refresh, we're going to go back to the same, to the same seed we had before, which is this one, because it's just the seed that we set it to. I never really considered persistence. It was always like a nice to have in the future, but it was never something where I was like, ooh, we're going to make this persist. It's going to be great from the get-go, because the only thing I cared about was just like semi getting this working, because I had no React experience. Like I was sitting there and I talked to one of my friends about this, and he's like, oh yeah, React is great. What do you use? Do you use like Redux or MobX? And I was like, I don't know what these words even mean. I watched a video, a guy made a thing, and I was like, hey, I bet I could do that. And then I made it. There was no thought beyond that. And then I like got halfway through it and I was like, oh, you know, a store sounds like a really cool idea. And then I started using like the MobX store or whatever. But hopefully I can avoid that. I think the way to do it is just store the nodes, and then I don't think the rows and the columns is necessarily the right approach, because I don't think it makes sense to have like your columns belong to your rows or your rows belong to your columns, because at that point, what is the node? Which sounds more philosophical than it actually is. Because like if I say, you know, all of this is one row, right? Then each of these columns belongs to that row. So let's grab a different node type. So each of these columns belongs to that row. Then I like calculate the node based on that, but it doesn't store the information. Instead, if you have a node and a node belongs to a row, let's say this is row 0, a node belongs to this row, and then it would have like a row position, maybe. Just store the X position. It feels like the easiest part of the puzzle to figure out, and I'm just having like a straight brain fart today. I think if we were to maybe extract out the rows and the columns, you have the number of nodes per. You store the, like, I guess, let's see, like the creation rows or something, like the number of rows you had when you created this, the number of columns you had. And then your node stores its XY position. You match it up to the row and the column. Does it necessarily have to belong to them? I mean, I feel like if it belongs to a row and a column, you could just like get the parent's ID. If it doesn't belong to the row and the column and it has an X and a Y position, you'd then say like, I guess you'd say something like row 3 or row 3, column 3 or something. I guess grid. And this is like row equals 3, column equals 4. And this is your node. So, see, this to me seems a bit too convoluted. So let's get rid of the rows and the columns for now. We do kind of need the old rows and column count in the future. I guess that's a question of, do we need it right now? Like, is this going to limit the application in its current state? And my answer to that is we have like 4 boxes rendering on our screen right now. So I don't think this is going to be a limiting factor. So what we could do then is we have the grid. It's a display of flex. Can I force a height of like 500 pixels? Then let's also get rid of this. So say for node in nodes, get the node ID, and we'll just get rid of this for now. That, like that, get rid of this. Maybe. And then let's also backspace this, that, this. Yeah. So let's say node width. Oh, we don't need that actually. Okay. This is missing a closing div still, I guess. That question mark. Yeah, okay. Yeah, so we can actually give this like a styled width and a styled height. But for some reason this wasn't working. Let's see. Set to the grid. Interesting. Why isn't this working when we do it up here? I guess because we're not setting... Oh, it looks like we're doing it because we say width is equal to this, height is equal to that. I feel like this should work, right? Let's see. What does our inspector say? Actually, we'll screen this. It says there is no height being set. That's interesting. Where did my... Oh, there it is. Because it feels like this should be working, right? So we set the style, we give it a width, we attach pixels, we give it a height, we attach pixels. We come into here, this has a width, this has a height. Unless we maybe need to just say 500 and 500. Pass that in. Okay, so that works. So maybe it's just the way that we're passing in these values. Yeah. For some reason, this probably here. So let's say alert, oops, alert, this dot width. Oops. Like that. Refresh. 875. 875. Okay. So this is working. So do I have to do like this dot width? Refresh. Okay. And then this dot height. It really doesn't like the height for some reason. What is the inner height? Alert. This dot height. 625? I mean, that sounds right, because it definitely looks tall, but not quite as tall as it is wide. So I guess what's the difference between how we're doing one of these versus the other one? I guess in the grid, we set the width. Props width and height. Let's try this. Comma. Oh, I guess this is actually like a function though, right? Something like that. Does that work? Yeah, okay. Alert. This dot width. I don't actually know if this is gonna work. Huh. But yeah, what if we do this? That work? Maybe? Refresh? Just passes in this dot width. I don't know what I was expecting, but if we do this. Save, refresh. Oh, didn't mean to save that. 200, okay. Well, that's progress, right? So I guess it's colon height to do props, and then you just do this? Question mark? Oh my god, I feel like we're learning. Okay. But it thinks the width is different than it actually is, which is a little strange. Let's try this. Let's say console.log this dot width, and then, oops, this dot width, console.log this dot height. Let's see, oops, I should probably get rid of that alert. And we'll see what it's actually doing here. Console. All right, so 881, which is larger than the actual page. And then 625, which I guess it's, oh, I see. So the height makes sense. Does the width make sense? Honestly, none of this makes sense. So we're just going to do this. This times 0.9. Oops. Resize it for now. We'll make this a future me problem, I guess. Save. Okay, sure, whatever. The height's still too big. And that's just because of the title. All right, let's get rid of that console before I throw something. There we go. Okay. That's better, I guess, for now, maybe a little bit. So I guess now we just need to crank up the number of nodes that are being generated, which I feel like this way, this is an okay way to do it. But instead what we can do is we can say this dot nodes. Let's do this. We'll say for let I equals 0, I is less than, I don't know, 250, I plus plus. Let's just scale it up a little bit. Or let j equal 0, j is less than 250, j plus plus. And then we'll just say this dot nodes I, j, although this should probably be j and I, right? That's fine. Yeah, that should be fine. Is equal to, I don't know, an object with an ID equal to, what would it be, like I plus j? Is that what we would want to do? I guess the ID doesn't really matter, does it? Let's just do I plus j. And then the type will just be basic. I don't actually know what the types are going to be for now, so I'm just doing this because, I guess because I can. We'll refresh. That clearly works. You say for var node and nodes, node.id, node width, node height. Okay. Oh, I see. Maybe I need to do this. Oops. Refresh. That's not working. Okay. was hoping that would work. We just do nodes dot whatever. No. Gotta be this. It's gotta be this. It's gotta be. It's the only thing that makes sense. I feel like when we do this, right? This should force the component template to refresh? Question mark? But I'm not entirely sure on how this works. Obviously. I guess let's try a console.log for this.nodes. Come over to our console. Come over to that console. See what's going on. Valid prop. Type check failed for prop node height. Expected number with value 25 got string. Oh, I see. Oh, like this? Is this what you're looking for? I don't know what I'm doing, so be gentle. The property 0 of undefined. At proxy mount. I don't know what that means. Totally honest with you. I don't know what you're talking about. But it sounds fancy. Let's see. Not set. It's really not helping me. Source main.js and module. I don't know what any of that means. Okay, so we can come into here. This just has node width, node height. Sure, whatever. Let's try a console.log for the this.node width, I guess. And we'll put this in the mounted method, and this is totally not going to blow everything up when it sits here and runs like 500 times if I'm doing this right. So this seems to be working. Interesting. Console.log. This is node. Let's try this. We get that. Yeah, okay. So it is running this code like 4 or 5 times, I guess. That's something. But then this does not update the function. You update data. I guess that's what we're going to do. Let's do view 3. Update data. This might be the point where I have to start using the store because I don't actually know how to bind anything, and I just drop the rest of the T bag into the T. That's fantastic. Let's see. This just seems wrong to me. All right, let's see. Data. Purple page, always a good sign. The component instance. We have the props. This seems like what I'm looking for. I guess the question is, oh, would this be, is this computed? I don't think this is computed. Could be computed. Or does this, ooh, I guess let's clean it up a bit. What is it? Methods. Do this, and then we can say, initialize grid. Paste this in here. And I guess we put a comma here. And say this dot initialize grid. Okay. Assuming that didn't blow anything up, but it's also not doing anything. Property 0 of undefined in proxy initial grid. Interesting. I guess we don't need this, right? It's not an array, it's just an element in the array that we're setting this to. Okay. Any way to get like info from view here? Oh, it's just an error. That's fantastic. Okay. Grid dot view. Okay. What if we do this instead? Just say let ID equal this. Copy this. So we'll say this is the ID. Okay. I don't know what I was hoping to accomplish by doing that, but it did not work the way I was hoping it would. Let's get rid of the console log. Let's tab this over. All of that. It is expecting the ID to be a number. I guess that's something. If we come down here, get rid of that. Rid of the console log. Okay. But yeah. Come down here and then we say console.log my nodes are, oops, my nodes are, let's just do this. Really like to just get the object. I can take a look at it. Doesn't seem to want to do that though. I don't know, do I have to initialize this to a size? Like, do I have to say this is 250 by 250? I feel like JavaScript normally doesn't care what you do. It's just like, yeah, man, if you want to break everything, I'm not going to blow up and throw an error. I'm just going to sit here and make your life miserable after the fact. I'm not used to it being like upset before we get there. Property 0 of undefined. What's undefined here, I guess, is a good question to ask. I come into here. I log it before I get there. Okay, so that gets us our 5 objects, right? What happens if I get rid of... Oh, maybe that's why. Ooh, what if that's why? We have our list of nodes here. What if it needs to be like a 2-dimensional array? And the reason why it's upset... Just a comma in here? Oh my god. Oh, let's just pretend I'm not looking how to do this. Okay, so it's just like, this is painful, but okay. Something like this, and then we do this. Gotcha. Give each of these something like this, then we'll just say, I don't know, 6, 7, 8, 9. Actually get rid of these then. Okay, that. And then we'll grab these, paste these in here. This, I guess. Possibly. Yeah, like that, like that. And tab this over. We can come into the first one, which had these, and we'll grab these 2, paste them in here, get rid of that. And then let's tab this over, and now let's try and clean up all this copy pasta. Okay, so we got, what we got? We got this. This has just some objects in it. Oops. Object, object, object. It has this, which clears up the first square brace. Then we have this, this, this. We have square brace, right? Which should be matching up with the initial array brace, but it's not. God, what am I doing with my life right now? Okay. This matches up with this, right? Cool. Enter this down. Let's collapse this one. Enter this down, collapse this one. Makes sense. And then this needs a open brace. There we go. Collapse that one. That it would have just been faster if I just manually typed it out. That's why copy pasta is bad. Don't do as I say, or do as I say, not as I do. Don't copy paste. It's bad for you. It's actually pretty good. Okay, so now we have, I guess, a whole bunch of nodes that are spaghetti code. This is still upset about a property 0 of undefined. I guess my question is, if I come into here, I do console.log this.nodes 0. What does this do? Refresh. Nodes 0 is going to be this one. And then how do I access the second element? Is it, we access it the Java way? It looks like that works. Please don't tell any C# developers that called that the Java way. Or like any other language, because everyone gets offended by Java. So I guess my question is, why is this being so difficult? So if I set this to 3 and 3, do I still get this error? Or is it's okay with that? All right. Then if I set this to 4, it breaks, presumably because the array has to be resized? No. Okay, so it's only when I resize the ith row that it complains. Interesting. So I can add more elements to the, I guess, the J's, but I can't add more to the I's. So do I just push? How does anyone work in a language like this? This is JavaScript dynamic 2-dimensional array. We have like an array list we can use. A variable. So I guess what we could do is we could just have like a list of, probably just push like a new array item onto here for each one of these, right? We come in here, we say this dot nodes equals, I don't know, this, right? And we come in here and we say this dot nodes dot push, something like that. What's up with my tab size? Why is my tab size set to whatever it is? 2, I guess. Oh, I guess this didn't. There we go. Okay. All right. So something's wrong with my indentation. I guess we could just do this, right? And then we come in here, refresh. It's upset. Oh, that's the wrong page. I'm so stupid. Okay. So now we should be able to set this to 255, 255. Refresh. This goes over. We're now logging into Oblivion. That works. Good. Oh, I guess because we probably have, yeah, we have some logs in here. Okay. Cool. Now we can at least see how inefficient this is. So for each of these, I guess this would not want to, probably want to do like, why is this upset? Does not exist. All right, because we're pushing in an empty array. Okay, so we would want to push in an empty array, and we would need that array to have some form of ID on it. Okay, so I guess like a row ID for each of these. Like this, maybe? Question mark. This is gonna expect it to be wrapped with parentheses. It really be a lot cooler if it wasn't. All right, so let's come in here, undo this. So we want to do this. I guess let's get rid of this for now. Let's just leave this as like an empty array, right? Let's not do any placeholder data. Might just make my life easier if I do that. Okay, so now we don't have anything in here. We just have an array. We come in here, we say for I equals 0, 255, whatever, plus. push an item into the array. And that item is going to be this. It's empty. Who's it? But we actually want this to be I guess it would be an object that has an array. Is that how we want to do it? Object with an ID. Let's do this. Has an ID of 1, and then it has an array. Instead of an ID of 1, it's going to have an ID of I. Does that make sense? Probably not. Have this over. Let's bring this up here. Push this over, and then it has like, would it be like a list of columns? How does one do JavaScript? I feel like this would have just been easier in any other language. Okay, so the row has an ID. It also has a list of columns. So I guess you just say columns, or a row has some nodes, maybe. And then each one of these is a node, because that makes sense, right? But then you'd be going to, yeah, that would be a little weird, wouldn't it? The problem is you want to give each one of these things like its stupid view ID for loop. I remember this being an issue with React as well, where it's like the keys. So I guess instead of an ID, this would be the key, right? Set the key equal to I, and then you have your nodes, and then your node has an ID. The ID is good for uniquely identifying the node of, or the node's ID works for giving the node a unique ID. But because we're also creating like these components for the div where we're iterating, because this is like a rows, we also need a way to give the row an ID. Oh, what a pain. Okay, so how do we want to do this? We go through here, each row has multiple nodes in it. And then the row will have this row key, I guess. The key here is it's going to be node in, can we do nodes, or let's try for row in nodes, the key of row.id question mark. And then with a div, div v dash 4, my brain's in like 4 different places, equals, you then have a node in row, the key equal to node dot id, right? We come down here and we close the div. This is just going to turn into like a 3-hour coding session of like watch Dean make a 2-dimensional for loop. Okay, so that kind of makes sense to me. Is there a way to see? So it's not making anything right now. Is it at least logging any of this? My nodes are, which is this. We don't actually have any nodes here. Okay, so what happens if I get rid of this? I come down here, console.log this.nodes. What does this give me? Probably nothing, because it's probably blowing it. Why does calling console log down there cause it to work? How does that make any sense? Okay. All right, so we have, what do we have here? We have 0 to 3. So we have 3 different iterations of one loop. We come in here. There should only be, what, like, there should be a 3x3. So where are these extra 2 coming from? That is the question. Right here, this makes sense because we're calling it with the ith one. We push in I. This dot nodes dot push this object. And then we come in here and we say in the ith element, we want to do, oh, we probably want to do like dot push instead of dot j, right? We come into here and we push this. Does this make sense? Something like that? Okay. Okay, so we say in row I, push a new object. I feel like that would work, right? So let's refresh. .log this dot nodes is not logging. This dot nodes I dot push, not a function. Okay, so what if we do this? Let's comment this out, come into here, refresh. And let's say, I don't know. Let my array equal array where we this, say my array dot push. We'll push in a array. I've come to realize what the issue is. It's this dot nodes I dot nodes dot push. Is that what we need to do? That's so tragic. Oh, what have I done? I've managed to make the most spaghettified version possible. Okay. This, I guess we'll probably want to rename it. We'll definitely want to rename it away from this dot nodes. We'll probably want to call it like this dot grid, and then have we push the nodes into the rows or something, or this dot rows and we push it in there. I don't know. I think that would probably make the most sense. Okay, so that gets us to 0, 1, 2. We should have 3 though, right? Come in here. This should run a total of 9 times, but it's not. Or it is, and it's just not drawing it. It looks like it should have. Let's try this. Instead of doing a console log, let's do a, what is it? Window dot nodes equals this dot nodes. Is that how we do it? I can say dot, call nodes dot length, nodes dot, or nodes 0 dot length. That work? No, it doesn't. Okay, so let's just call node 0 as a key in nodes. So we have to do nodes 0 dot nodes dot length, right? Yeah, okay. And then there should be a 2. And then, yeah, so this is working. This is only rendering some of them though. It's a little strange. So I guess why would this only be rendering up until 2? So if I do 4 here, what happens? This doesn't change. If I do 4 here. Okay. The 4 changes the, I guess, the number of columns. If I change I, it's the number of columns. That's exactly backwards. So far we have this not only completely backwards, but also we have to call nodes.nodes to access the nodes. Fantastic. Let's see. This is actually our columns. This is our rows. We could flip it in how we are doing whatever. Oh, I guess we're not using that anymore. Okay. Then this is also off. So if I change this to 1, make it 0 so it doesn't even fire. If I get rid of this. Okay, so this has no bearing on that. Now let's leave this as 4 and 4. Actually, let's change this back to 3 and 3. Right, something like that. We're grabbing the node in the row. Let's do the node in the row dot nodes. That's what the issue was. Set this to 5. Set this to 5. Okay. So it's ultimately just a problem of me not knowing how to name things. So I guess if I change this to 6, I would expect an additional row down here. But this is actually the columns. So what I should do then is probably rename some of this crap. So this is actually our column. We'll call this column.id. And then this would be in the column.nodes. Don't like how that works either. Leave this as row, and we'll just figure out how to name this better. We could switch this with I and J, or we could just accept that the outer loop is the well, but then if I change this number, these are going to be flip-flopped, right? So this isn't really the number of rows, it's a number of columns, so we should probably just change it. Column in nodes, in grid. Down here, we're not going to call this. This is the grid, this is the grid. The grid is a 2-dimensional array. The column in that, this is a column, this is a column. A column has a list of nodes. Is that how we want to do it? Or a grid has a list of nodes? Column contains nodes. That kind of makes sense, because now you're saying this dot nodes, or this dot grid I dot nodes dot push. It's still absolutely tragic. So I don't like how this is working. So instead, what we could do, but that would still cause us to have to call this dot nodes. So I don't think pushing's the way to go. I guess you could just create the array based on the size, maybe. So I guess we have to figure out how to initialize an array of a set size in JavaScript. JavaScript, initialize 2D array. Yeah, and then it's telling you to push. But we need to give each thing an ID. Unless there's a way to get the ID from the node itself. I guess a node could have an X and a Y, and then you could just say like this dot grid dot X plus Y or something, give it a calculated. If I didn't have to give everything a key, this would be a much easier problem to solve. I don't know why. I guess I'm just tired. Also sore. Got my COVID shot. Just grumpy all around. Let's see. So we have our nodes. This is actually our grid. We're pushing to our grid. We're pushing a list of nodes to our grid. Like that. We add one to our columns. That works. Let's see. What else could we do? I really don't like having to call this .grid .nodes when we do this, because I can already tell that right now it's not super inconvenient, but down the road I'm going to want to throw something whenever I do this. I guess I could also, because I'm giving each one of these things a ID like this. What I could do, I could just push this array like this. Right? Do this, get rid of this, move this up here, get rid of this. And then I come in here and I say this I dot push whatever. It's going to blow up because like dot push isn't a thing or whatever. And let's say do this dot grid. Yeah. Come in here, say grid dot length is 4, grid 0 dot length is 5. Okay, so that's bigger. Let's leave it 3 by 3. Okay. Now we've restructured how this works. So we have to come up here. We say for column in grid, column ID, or node in column, node ID. That gets us a 3 by 3. Well, the last thing that I'd like to do here is just flip how this works. So instead of it being the column on the outside, I'd like it to be the row on the outside. But how do I do that? Probably not going to happen until I start pushing, right? Or I have to restructure how the divs work. But I guess for now, this kind of makes sense. I still have my divs or my classes down here that I'm not using. So let's say this is 5 and 5. Okay. Instead of 5 and 5 or 3 and 3, what I'd like to do is this a number of rows and then a number of columns. And then this can be I guess this would be a calculated value of like width divided by, it wouldn't necessarily be, well, we want like, number of rows and number of columns is going to be a division of the width divided by a node size, or yeah, a node size, right? Node size will be from the store. For now, I'll just say it's 25. All right, so I guess what we can do, just set this to be 25 in here, 25 in here. And here, instead of logging this, we'll say this dot number of rows is equal to the height, this dot height divided by 25. And then this dot number of columns equal to this dot width divided by 25. When we pass these in here, we say of columns is equal to this dot number of columns. Then we'll want to reformat this. So hit enter, enter, then number of rows is equal to this dot number of rows. Cool. That works. We'll pass those in. Then we'll come in here. The grid, this will need some props. Number of columns is a number. Number of rows is a number. Right, and then this will be this dot number of columns. Okay. And this will be, I guess this would be the number, yeah. No, number of columns makes sense. And then this dot number of rows. Okay. Just slightly bigger than it needs to be. Because of course it is. So let's say this is this height, which is going to be 90% of that. So it's the size of this outer container, which is grid size, right? It's going to be 552 by 502. Let's say 502 divided by 25 would be, well, that's going to be 20. So this should be 20 different things here, maybe. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Each of these is 27 instead of 25, so that's really not ideal. Where am I setting that? I guess I'm making a class somewhere. Yeah, this sets the node width and the node height to be 25 pixels. We're dividing it by 25. It's 502, so it should be too short in theory. Probably because of some weird CSS thing that I'm not considering. I do this and then I refresh. Okay, so now the width seems fine. Although this does entirely seem flipped, so that's probably what's doing it. Yeah, okay, so let's come into here. Oops, grab this, do this. That just made it worse. Okay. That works. Column and grid. Node in column. Create a node. Yeah, so this one is... The question is, what happens if... Let's console out log these. Oops. Something like that. Come over here, open up the console. What do we got? Really? Oh, 30. Okay, so 27 and 20. So if I resize this, 28 and 20. Height's very strange for me. So that means that this thinks it's 500 pixels, I guess. It's clearly not. It's 502. Means I'm willing to bet that this is probably, it's got to be getting flipped, right? So I guess what happens if I say this is width and then this is height? Do that. That also doesn't cause it to flip, so something wonky's going on here. What could it be? Columns, rows, columns, rows. Oh, this is what it's actually like when I make these videos, by the way. It's just a whole bunch of me being frustrated with myself at my own inability to problem solve sometimes. The grid. Grid I, or I guess grid 0, not length, is 25. Okay. It's still making a 25 by 25 grid. Interesting. This is accepting the props. Number of columns divided by 25. Okay. This dot width. This. Width is, and then plus this. Could probably just put in debug statements, but whatever. The width is 720 pixels. Width divided by 25 equals this. So what is that? 720 divided by 25 is 28.8. So that checks out. Then how many do we have going across here? Why don't we try? These has a type. Interesting. I want to say what we should try is to give each one a unique identifier to figure out like where the, do I have any view tools or something? It looks like I don't. I'd probably have to install an extension. If I refresh this. Oh, it's just doing 25 by 25. Oops. That's interesting. Okay, so it's not even like reacting to what we're calculating then. So in app, we do this, we perform this calculation, we do these. It comes into the grid. We enter this down. Columns, number of rows. You would expect this to like resize itself, right? So it's a number of columns, it gets a number of rows. It pushes, but it's not. What happens if I do this? That causes it to resize like I would expect it to. The grid's working. It's just the actual the count's off. It thinks for some reason that this dot number of columns should be 25. I don't know about you guys, but I don't agree with that because that clearly says 46. If I come in here, so 4 column in grid, which we've just established. Oh, well, you know, that might, No, because it calls initialize grid, which should create like a 40 something by 40 something thing, but instead it just caps out at 25, right? So somewhere it's getting the wrong numbers. Probably because I'm not using my brain. I set this to 4 and 4. Okay. Sure. So this assignment's not actually doing what I think it's doing. Or I guess like the data here happens before that. So is data mutable? Should be, right? Because I'm like setting this right here, right? This one for some reason doesn't work, which is weird, but I hit F12. This dot number of columns and this dot number of rows. What if we do this? Try renaming it. Maybe we're just getting into issues of like, duplicate names. We weren't. We were just, oh, well, maybe actually. Num columns, num rows, refresh. It's still a 4 by 4. So this fundamentally just doesn't work. This is, we're clearly like changing the size of this, I think, because this isn't 200 by 200, right? This is whatever by whatever. So something's changing, but our data's not, which is interesting. So whatever this gets initialized to is like this, right? Width is 720. That's 28. And then at the end here, you console log these, you pass these in, then you come in here. Almost like once you get into the next layer in grid, the number of columns and the number of rows isn't working. What happens if I come in here and I say console.log number of columns? Save that, refresh, 4. Although it did change for a second there, which is very strange. Okay, so I guess let's figure out why view 3 data not updating from mounted. Does this need to be calculated, maybe? Is that what I'm doing wrong? Definitely does not need to be calculated. Oops, refresh. Okay. It's worth a shot, right? Component not updating when data changes. The activity happens regardless of being specific to components. It all depends on how those dates. Okay. JavaScript, nature, nothing specific to view. Things like adding new keys to an object after it's been, okay, I don't, let's just go somewhere else. I have the attention span of a squirrel. Just gonna have to respect that, internet. All right, show an updated. Okay. This is like a Vuex specific question. Figure out one my component. The parent component passes down the data for the video via props. Set this to be used with multiple videos. Works fine with single or many. I think the initial state. Okay. Yeah, so it almost seems like what they're doing is they have like a methods, and then they come in here and they say like, I don't know, calculate number of columns. Then they come in here and they say the number of columns is this, and then like this, and then they have a comma, calculate number of whatever. Instead of columns, we'll say rows. They come in here and they do this, right? Please excuse the ugly code. How do I... Something like this, maybe? Unless you actually need to do like function this. Seems better? Question mark? It really is like a black box language to me. Just pretending to do things until things happen. Unexpected token. All right, you know what? View 3 methods. Just an exercise in how much we can Google. Okay, I'm actually looking for methods as a keyword. It's colon, and then it's just that. Yeah, so we should be good to just do this. Methods. There we go. That. Save, and then we would call this in here, I guess. Wrong with this. Just say like, back over to here. Type void. Instead of this, do you have to like, no? Okay. Something like that. Don't understand. Assignable to type number. Oh, I'm dumb. And then it needs to return, let's say, let num columns equal that, return num columns. Like that. Okay. We'll do the same thing here. So we'll say let num rows, and then we'll return num rows. And I'm just doing this in case I need to manipulate these later. I'm already storing them in a variable. Okay, so that seems a little bit better, a little bit more reasonable. So this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, which is just the 200 divided by 25. Okay. So what we could do, I guess, because it's still getting the number of columns based on what we previously defined the, like what we initialized these to. So it's still a data issue, right? Videos. Here they're using the store, so maybe I should just move over to using the store. Oh, let's see. How do you do view? Data is just render component. But I don't want to hack it like that, right? What I'd like to do is just say, like, let's update the width and height, and then let's just pass it into the component. Kind of like what I did in React, honestly. This is just a symptom of me not understanding it fully. So what happens if I change this to 400? I'm assuming that we get more grid items, but calculating it like this isn't working. I guess the question is, like, how do you use mounted calculations to use mounted variables in methods block view 3? Let's see. Stop using var and use the latest let and const. Okay. They're a variable. And then in your mounted category, this just seems like some spaghetti. Stats say hello, methods say hello. That also seems strange to me. I thought if we came into data, we said this dot width, that this would then, you need to do it like this. But seems better, I guess. If I do this, refresh, okay. We're closer, so it was a life cycle issue. So because it was in mounted and not created, it was unhappy. We do this, some reason that causes it to work. But if I come back here, the difference between 80% and 90% on the width is a little bit concerning. If I change this to 80 again, and I save, the actual width here seems to be like, it's definitely doing 80% of the window width, but the actual width of the container seems off still. The number of rows seems to be working at least, so I guess we've got that going for us. So what happens if I were to take, I guess this probably wouldn't be updated at the time. So I guess let's see. How do we do this? What's the actual total width here? Let's go to console. Window dot inner width. Inner width is 917. 917 times 0.8 is 733. And this grid container is how big? Width is 733 pixels. Is that actually true? Yes. And then it has its padding, but where are these extra 3 coming from? Because it still seems off. So if I take 733 divided by 25, I get 29 times, it should only be going to 25 pixels, but these are 27 each, question mark. Probably because of the border, I guess. So it's almost like they're 23 pixels, they're supposed to be 23 pixels. And then you have to subtract 1 from each border size, maybe. Something like that. Okay, well, let's try that. So what happens if instead of passing in 25 for these, we pass in 23 for these? Oops, 23. And then in the main one where we're assuming it's the other size. Yeah, so that seems a little bit better. That explains our off by 2 issue. Of course, being off by 2 like 25 times is going to cause some issues. If I set this back up to 9, it's definitely getting closer. Now let me make sure, as this scales, it's trying. So what we would want to do is we would want to divide by 9 and subtract, like, almost do something like this, minus window dot inner width. We're not actually going to do this, but you want to do something like this. get rid of that, and then multiply it by 9. So basically just like a math clamp. That was a nice voice crack on my part. Do this, and then I guess, how do we math clamp? Math clamp? Does that work? Is it math F? JavaScript clamp. We have a clamp method. Clamp number. Okay. I guess it's just clamp. Or I guess we could do like round to int. Math.round. We don't really want to round. We want to, well, I guess we'd want to round to like a multiple of 25, right? Yeah, something like that. We would want to subtract off the, we want to take something like this and say we have, let's say 739 minus 739 mod 25, which would give us, what is that? 739 mod 25 would be 14. I don't know why I just had to do that. I could have figured that out in my head. This minus 14. And then all of this divided by 25 times 0.9. Okay, so we take this. Okay, this number minus window.inner width mod 25 divided by 25 times 0.9. That should give us something that should fit in here. In theory, in practice it won't, of course. So what do we got here? We got this minus this. Also like an absolutely abysmal way of doing this. Okay. Oh, what do we have? We have the, of this. That inner width equal this. Just 739 minus like 14. So 725. And we have 725 divided by 25. Ooh, and then point times 0.9. That's where we're running into some problems because we're doing the times 0.9 prior to that. So we actually have to do the scaling like here, right? Do the scaling, then we subtract off the mod. So let's do this. Let's say let scaled width equal window dot inner width times 0.9. And we have our scaled width right here minus our scaled width mod 25. And then our width is just set equal to inner width. Actually, this could just be this. Something like that. And now we have it mostly bounded in the box. I imagine it's still going to be off by a pixel or two, just because of how this is being calculated. So that's kind of unfortunate, but now also say let scaled height equal window dot inner height times 0.8. Then we grab the scaled height. Say this minus scaled height mod 25. It's us our height. Now if I resize, it should always be mostly bounded by the boxes. Maybe. Looks like the height could also just, no, okay. All right. So now the only thing left would be to like, I guess, well, there's a couple things. You'd want to refactor this to be like Don't use arbitrary constants. Change 0.9 to be a store value or something. You'd also need like a node width down here. Add node width instead of just random 25 value. And that's just so it's more maintainable, and the same thing down here. So like grab this, paste it down here. Like that. Just clean up the code a little bit. Feel like that would probably work for now, and then we just have to focus on like if I click on one of these, which node is it, and then how do we set like the background color of that node. I guess you wouldn't be setting the background color of the node, you'd be saying if the node's type is a certain type, then give it a color, and then you would click on it and you would say like set the type to be whatever type you have, like your selected type, right? So you'd have to do some kind of like mouse position translates into a grid position, or like U3 just get the component you clicked on or something. Clicked item. Dash model. E dash click. Oh, I'm dumb. You just had a click listener, right? Yeah. You'd give this an on clicked basically. And then when you click it, you would set the type to be the application's type. Something like that. How's everyone in YouTube land doing? I see there's some people dropping by. Hope you guys are enjoying my endless ramblings. Wasn't enough to just sit here and yell at one platform. I had to multi-stream my insanity. Let's see. Say we click on this, we set the type, we need the CSS for the types. Types won't be a component though. Types will be like be an enum in the store with a couple different values. And then depending on what you set it to, you'd want to do something like, obviously the first one I'm going to do is like the walls. So if we come in here and we do this, it can't like traverse past these walls. So it has to like find its way around the walls. Because I think that makes the most sense to do is like the first one is like an infinitely weighted one, just as like a basic obstacle. Because like Dijkstra's isn't going to care if I put like, I don't know, grass somewhere initially. But then I can add the weight later. And for algorithms, like if I do breadth first search, it's just going to completely ignore the fact that this has a weight of 1. It's only going to understand the infinite. Like it either can or it can't go there. And that's going to happen. It's going to be easier to do the walls first, just because then I don't have to do all of these like intermediate calculations. I just say like if true or if false, like if walkable, I guess, or if not walkable, traversable, whatever word you want to use. So let's see. There was a way to do it. We can call a click handler. I don't know if that's, I guess that's kind of the way to do it. So if I call that in the node, then let's say this has like a on click or something, so like methods. Then here it has an on click. Would then get it from the store. So let's say like store dot type selected node type or something. And then this dot type equals that. Then you would need some way to say, based on the node type, if it's a certain node type, it needs to have a certain CSS class. And that's going to be like a whole thing. You're going to need, I guess you would need some kind of listener in the grid, or when it creates this, it passes in a node type, and then in here you say, you like switch off that node type maybe. And then this also has a listener for when it's clicked. This is a lot of thinking for 1 in the morning. So when we click this, we select a node type. So let's say to begin with, this has a node type of basic, right? Let's say like it has node types dot basic or something. I don't know. And then when this gets updated, this would have to call something. How do we do that in Vue? So I guess we could say like we call another method that just handles post updates. And then it would also have to get called initially. So like switch on node type or something, right? And then you come down here and you'd say switch on node type. And then here you'd say switch node types, node types from the store. I don't know what the syntax for this is, but let's say case node types dot basic. Then we would want to give this like want to give this a class or something. I don't actually know how to select a templates div from a method, but you want to do something like this. So you'd say like, I don't know, the div dot styles dot color equals 232323 or whatever. Div dot I guess you'd also want to say like this dot walkable equals like node types. So instead of doing this, what we could say is we could say node types dot basic dot color, right? Node types dot basic dot walkable. And then this dot, say this dot color. I don't know why this is so hard for me to think about. You have this dot color, this dot walkable, and then you would have like this dot weight. You could actually just make this a weight right away. But instead of saying like that, you would have your weight for the wall would be like, so let's say this is wall, right? Your weight for the wall would be infinite, I guess. Colon, and then break. And then your default case would be, oops, what is going on with my indentation? Okay, your default case would be the same as your error case, I guess. Case node types dot error, which would have a color equal to node types dot error, I guess. This would need to be wall error dot color, which we're just going to set to white later, and then this dot weight would be node types dot error dot weight, which will also be 0, and then we would say break. So if you get one you don't understand, or you have one that there you just pass an error, then you would just walk off of or work off of this. That seems fine. Albeit a bit chaotic because I'm just sort of mixing our mixing the pseudocode and the actual code. You don't have node types yet. Node types would be a store component, I guess, or a store module or something, because we have the grid here. You wouldn't want to get it from a grid module. You'd want to have like a node types module. Right, so we'd come in here, we'd say node types or something. Import node types from modules, node types, I guess. Something like that. Into the store modules, new file, node types.js. Copy the grid into there. State as a node types is going to be an object, I guess, or it would be an array of objects, maybe. Or the first object would have a name, air, maybe. Or I guess the way we're doing this, yeah, we kind of have that whole structure going on. Is there a way? JavaScript structure. Is there a struct? Structs. Properties inherited. Okay. Well, whatever. We'll just do it like this. We'll just say it has a name of air. It has a... Ooh, that's a good point, though. How would we want to do this? We could say it has a name of air, or we could say there's just like the node types module has a bunch of different node types in it. And how would we iterate through them all? I feel like a collection is the right way to go. So we could just say it has node types like this. We have a list of objects. Each one would have a name, it would have a weight, and it would have a color. So let's just keep going down this route. Name, weight will be 0. Color will be FFF, something like that. And then we can come into our node, say import node types from @components slash oops @/store/ modules, I guess. No, we just want to import the store, right? Import store, something like that. Require store. How do we do this again? Import, that works. Import @/store/index. I'm dumb. Like that, right? And then this is going to say it's not used. And then we would want to come in here. We would need to do something like vuex or vuex4 getters, because I don't remember how to do this. I know getters are a thing, but I don't remember how to do this. Store state to-dos, don't need to do that. You have to like import map getters or something. vuex4 map getters. How do we do this? Computed, use store. I don't want to do this though. Did I do this before? Let's come back to cheat sheet. Previous project. Let's come into source. I guess components and like filter to-dos. Map actions, not what I'm looking for. Close though. We do need to actually do that. Let's say to-dos. Map getters from vuex. Okay. Looks like we're not importing the store, so let's do this instead. Import map getters from vuex. Okay. Then down here, question mark, inside computed, just like this. Cannibalizing a previous project, don't mind me. This. Don't need a semicolon there, I guess. So let's come over to store or index. Get rid of that. Save it. This dependency was not found. Store modules, node types. Don't want to do that. So what we can do instead, maybe we can type this better. Grabbing the state from here, we're exporting this, which is from like our grid, I guess. Get node types from here. So maybe it's just named the wrong thing. Like that's also a possibility, I guess. Node types. No, this was that. Pathfinding SRC components node.view, node types everywhere, basically. Okay. We come into node. All of these now. We would need to do however we were accessing the to-dos here. So we get all to-dos, and then we come in here and we just said like to-dos dot whatever, I guess. But instead what we would need to do is we would need to do, I don't know, like this dot store dot whatever, right? See if that works actually. Let's store dot node types. Work. Grab all this. Boom, 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 boom. Okay. Interesting. I feel like we're getting closer. Either that or JavaScript's just lying to me and it's like, oh yeah, this will work. And I'm going to find out in a little bit that it doesn't actually work, but that's just half the fun of playing with JavaScript, I guess. Let's see. Let's come back into our store. We have our first node type. Let's also give it our second. So we'll say another object. This one will have a name of wall. A weight of, I do like math.infinite or something. Infinity. JavaScript. Math.infinite. That thing? Global property infinity. Oh, okay, so I can just do this. Cool. All right. And then we'll give it a color. We'll just give it the same color I used last time. This one. I just do this? Or does it? No, I can't just do that. RGB 2 hex. What was this? 12, 53, 71. Grab this for now. Here we go. That looks good. Okay. Now we can come over here. And in theory now, I should be able to, let's say, type basic. Instead of doing it like this, we do, we would want to give it like a store.nodetype.something, right? They each have an ID and they each have a type. But what we would also want to do here, have a type, node type equal to whatever. Yeah, so I don't think we need to set it down there. I think it's fine for each of them to just have an ID. Although we're not really using the ID. The ID is something more that's going to be, I guess we'd pass it in from here in theory, right? It would have an ID. It would have a node type. The node type would be something like wall. This would be, right? So it'd be like, we come in here, node dot node type, maybe? Question mark? Node type's a wall. Wall comes into here. And we say this has style. All this is kind of generated in a very ugly way, but that's fine. This, Tab it over, comma, color, I guess, would be, what are we calling this? I guess we're not setting the color there, right? We'd be getting the color in the actual, we'd like be setting it here. So let's say, I don't know, color is this dot color, or it would just be, yeah, let's say this dot color. I don't know, something like that. It's upset. Property color does not exist on type. Of course not. We give this a node type. Is, I don't know, anything? I just do any. This isn't TypeScript, so probably not. Let's just do something like this, I guess. String. String. There we go. Okay. Not read property color of undefined. This? Does this work? Parsing error, unexpected token. Of course. This. How do I view? I feel like this is the wrong way to go about it anyways. So back up for a second. Do some thinking. All right. So we grab the color. We would want to set the div's color. I don't know why this is so hard. Probably select the class down here and say this dot CSS attributes dot color, right? Select by class. Ooh, or we could do like select by ID. Let's give this is our node. We pass in the ID for the node. We could then uniquely select this node. Scoped styling. So let's just say this is our node. Do it like, I don't know, JavaScript class select. This seems like not the way to do it. View, grab. Oh, I guess you could also say view set template color. I don't know, style, something. I have prop. We'll just type words into Google until Google gives us code. Like most junior developers stuck in tutorial hell. Your color variable. So yeah, they are basically doing what I was doing. They say background color, and then they just set this equal to, I guess, this dot color in this case. But we don't have like this dot color set, so it's going to freak out over here. So we need to get our data. Same way we do it over here. Or just with props, I guess, maybe. What we could also do is instead of passing in a node type and switching it in here, we would have the switch based on node types here. Does that make more sense? Node type switch in grid as opposed to I think it's getting too late for this. It's like 1:30. Let's see. You would have a node switch in the for loop, which would pass in something like your color, which would be a string, your what do we call it? The weight, which would be a number. And you'd also have an ID, I guess. Oops, ID. Should be a number. I don't know why you would need the ID, but I will let you manipulate these, excuse me. You come into here, and instead of pushing it in like this, you would say, I don't know. You wouldn't want to call like get grid values or anything, would you? Probably not. This would give you the ID. Node type would be, in this case, wall. Although we could also just import the store like we did in the other one, wherever we did that. Here, I guess. Import map getters. Grab the calculated or the computed method. Paste that down here. Tab over. For some reason the tabs are still messed up. My linter is having a rough time right now. Instead of saying, you know, all to-dos like I was doing here, we would want to just get the, whatever we're going to call it. Get node types or something. I don't know. Which would just be like returning all the node types. But for now, I'll just call it straight. So we do this. We import the store. And we say, well, I guess we're not importing the store. We come in here and we say this dot store dot node type. Node types? What do I call it? Node types dot we can't really select it by name, so that's really not ideal. So that would be where you would want to, like, in here say, you know, return what were we doing before? You want to return like air and wall as like independent getters, and that would be probably the better way to go. So let's come into store, modules, to-dos. Yeah, so you'd want to say like air, which is state, turn state dot, or state 0, I guess. State dot node types 0. That work? Or could, I guess, can you do this? I don't think you can. You'd have to use quotes, right? So that's just not going to work. You return 0 for that. And then you would want to do another getter for do like commas, I guess. Wall would be state node types 1, right? Okay, and then we'd come over to here. Then in grid, we have our getters. We would want to get the get wall, I guess. And then in here, I guess you'd want to say like this dot wall or something. Oops. Dot wall. And then color would be this dot wall dot color. And then your weight would be this dot wall dot weight. Again, very, very rough way of doing things, but it's just the initial plan, I guess. And then you come up here where you're passing in all these values, and then you'd say this has a node type of how do we do this? Like node dot node type. And it has a color of node dot color. Color equals, and get rid of this. And then this has a weight equal to node dot weight, right? That seems fine. Again, we're passing in the node type and also all the information associated with the node type. So you probably don't even need to do that, but come into here. Yeah, really no point in doing that. You come into here, this gets a color. set to this dot color. These are now switching based on the node types, but I don't think you need to do this switch in your individual nodes. This is more something you would do like at a higher level. This would almost be like a callback function to the parent, I guess. Click on a node, it goes back to grid, and then it modifies the node at that position, and then it says, okay, go update your stuff or whatever. Kind of makes sense. Makes sense to me, at least. I don't know what that's worth, though, at this point, because I'm dying here. Okay, so we set the color to be whatever it is. Not read property, color of undefined. Where is this having a hard time? Here, it's upset, I guess, about this one. This dot color. Interesting. We are passing that in, right? We pass it in as a prop. Makes sense. This dot color should work. Mounted. Let's try this. Console.log this dot color. What's this do? Where is this an issue? Okay, so we can get rid of this probably. Also get rid of this because we're not really using it. Oh, which means we can also get rid of this because we're not using it. Interesting. The color of undefined. Let's get rid of this for now. Refresh. Gets us back to here. Okay. Everything's blowing up now. You can see the logs going by. There's a definite noticeable performance hit here. Okay, so we are getting the color. Let's have the hex value. Not really sure why. This isn't working. Because I thought this was how they were doing it, right? Your color variable here. Background color was a string, that makes sense. Then they were doing, oh, I see. So they were doing color colon color. Take a look at the actual doc. See what they're doing. Article, dynamic styles, vbind, whatever. v-bind style. Okay. Oh. These styles override styles. I just want to set a color, man. In data, they set base styles, override styles, and then in here. So do we need like data, and then we need to set this in, like, assign this to the data? It was very strange, but I guess we can try it. Color. Let's say background color is equal to this dot color. Right, and then we come up here and we say background color. Question mark? Same thing that we were doing before. And for some reason it works. What happens if I just set this to color? Was that all I needed to do? Am I just... It was just that simple. Refresh. This is definitely lagging a bit now. Probably because of how I'm doing this. Yeah. Be nice if I could empty cache and hard reload this or something. Or like stop the server maybe. Probably a better way of doing it. Close that. Go over here. Navigate back here. Hit F12. So we're getting a lot of warnings. But we're also getting something that vaguely looks like what we're going for. For anyone that's just joining, basically trying to recreate this project I made in React like 2 or 3 years ago using Vue. And my Vue experience is virtually non-existent. So if you're wondering why I have no idea what I'm doing, that's why. Right now we're just working on like the basic clicky node stuff, and then hopefully in the future we can, you know, spruce it up a bit, add some additional functionality, and yeah, add in all the fun stuff like the procedural terrain generation and all this good stuff. But right now I just really like to get some type of like system worked out where we have the bare minimum of a grid working. I'll probably save like the clicking and stuff for next time, but I'm hoping I can at least get like this to switch between air and walls for now. And then next time what we can do is we can say, let's actually move this up. Hit a comma. Next time we can add the clicking. That was weird. And like maybe the getting a path to draw. I guess that'd be cool. Just any small incremental progress that makes me feel better about myself. But I guess what we can do is real quick, I can just... Backend does not have a commit checked out. Let me guess, it generated, yeah. Don't need that. There we go. Let's see now. Add node types and grid and stuff. There we go. Not Rails S. What am I doing? npm run serve. There we go. Okay. Oh, now if in theory, if I were to switch this to air, we set the node type here to be air instead of what we're doing here. So this is just saying like, this is what I was sort of concerned about by not having like the enum. We're not able to just say like the node type is this dot wall and everything gets passed around. Like here you're changing it in so many different locations, but if I were to come into here and let's say I change this to be air. It does change. Okay. That's probably something I'll have to clean up next time. I would really like to just have an enum in here where I say like, you know, enum air, water, wind, fire, heart, you know, the whole Captain Planet Armada in here. And then when I select that, I can switch off of it and have this populate accordingly. Instead of having all this duplicated data, because right now this feels very messy. But hopefully once I get this working, and I can actually select the types, I can then come into the back end, which hasn't been made yet, and I can just generate out a pre-built grid. Like maybe I take this with like some walls and some stuff in here. I do this. And then I save this grid to the back end, and then the back end can pull this data, or the front end can pull this data from the API, which would be the back end, in the store, and it can say, okay, this is your grid, and then it'll just take this out of storage, and I'll have like saved or savable grids or something. And that'll really help with whatever the end goal is, which I guess is just like a e-learning platform or something, but start small, right? And right now we could not be smaller because we just have a grid where you can manually flip all of the node types at once. But what happens if I do something like 232323? Then I wrap this in quotes. Refresh. Okay. Yeah, it's literally just sort of hacked together, but we'll leave this as air, or I guess wall, whatever. Refresh, hopefully. Yep. I'll probably just leave it here for now because I'm getting pretty tired. We're getting closer to 2 in the morning for me, so I've been going for a while now. But I mean, it's going to be incremental progress. It's I'd say when I started off with React, this portion I largely watched a tutorial. What was it? I'm sure some of you are going to know who this is, but it's like Pathfinding Visualizer. Yeah, this one. I followed along with one of these tutorials, and it was okay, but like it just abruptly stopped. I was like, oh, you know, I want to learn how to do this, but I would also like to expand on it a bit. And because I'm a big procedural person, I was like, oh, you know, it'd be cool if we took some of these algorithms, like A star, and we just force them to run through like a procedurally generated terrain. Because then we can add weights, like we can say, you know, granite's 50 and grass is 5, sand is 7, then you got like snow. And then I was like, oh, well, what if we resize it? And over time, it just became like, you know, a more and more involved project. It was a lot of fun, but then I stopped using React. I moved over to Vue. And ever since then, I've been wanting to work on this, but I don't want to go back to React because I just prefer Vue more. Sometimes. Other times I still like React more, I guess. But I'd like to get to the point where I'm like as competent now in Vue as I was in React, which wasn't very competent, but in some of these areas, like the stuff I did with React is still completely foreign to me. But I imagine there's some type of like crossover there. I'm hoping that like if I structure this better, some of these things like here, scaling this down to like 5 as the node size or whatever causes this to just slow to a crawl because of how I structured this. Like right here, you can see it. It's like popping in 10 nodes at a time, and I can hit skip and it works, but not super well. And I don't even know if like these algorithms work or not, because I feel like at one point I didn't work super hard on optimizing it, and I really had no idea what I was doing. So like if I come into here, yeah, in here, source, and what was it? No, this is for the other one. Let me go back to what Pathfindout's code was, because Pathfindout's code was kind of hacked together. If I go into source algorithms, and I think it was A star. A lot of this, so I guess this is fine for something that uses heuristics as like, you know, for diagonals, but we actually look at A star pathfinding algorithm. You actually look at how big this algorithm is. It's not that big. Like this is essentially the pseudocode for A star, right? And then this is my A star. You can see it's got a little bit of extra overhead. So I'd like to clean up some of this. Of course, this is just debugging stuff, but like some of this would be nice if I could have it a bit more optimal. And like when I add in the weights, I think I didn't really know what I was doing. So I never really asked, are the weights that I've added in here, do they make sense? And with A star, it's not just like, oh, you know, this is worth 5, so you just add 5. You have to sort of like set your baseline for how much each thing costs. And when I look back at it now, like some of these paths, if I refresh, it really don't make sense. Like if I add in, let's see, I might be able to replicate this. If I do this with Dijkstra, hopefully, it'll tell me the path length is 122. And if I come over to A star, the path length is 122. But what's interesting is both of them are visiting like roughly the same number of nodes, which to me seems very wrong. And the only time it really doesn't do that is when it's like a blank terrain, I guess, where like there's a noticeable difference in the number of nodes traversed, I think. That was 1538, and this is 1972. Like there's clearly something wrong with like the actual weight of that algorithm that I'm going to have to look into. But I don't know. It's just a fun little tool that I like to play with and work on, and I'd like to get back into it. So hopefully by using this potato, we can get there. Like right now, we've got 480 warnings appearing every time you generate a maze, or every time you generate a grid. The grid doesn't resize, doesn't do any of this other stuff, but I feel like it'll be fun. I'm just going to wait for this to finish so we can watch the animation. And then it does this weird little quirky animation. I think if I like drag it somewhere, maybe. Wherever it is, there it is, I think, right? There we go. Should, or at least it used to, generate a new path. But this is also super laggy. I think it'll get better the closer I get to the beginning, but very, very slow. If I block this off, you can see it like explores everywhere. If I do this and I switch to Dijkstra, I'll probably slow it down to a crawl. Well, there's a lot to do here, but you know, hopefully some of this will be interesting to watch, and then it'll also be helpful for anyone that's in an algorithms class trying to figure out how to do anything. I definitely would have liked to have this tool when I was in algorithms. Instead, I was just sitting there like scared out of my mind because I was taking linear algebra at the time. Like, which one do I study for? Oh, geez. Yeah, I think that's going to do it for today. I'm just going to, close out the stream. Hopefully you guys learned something or found some entertainment or something. I guess watching me struggle for a few hours might be entertaining. I don't know. You have sick, twisted sense of entertainment. Watching a guy figure out how to like assign a size to a grid. Jeez. But yeah, thanks for hanging out. If you want to see more of these, I'm probably gonna be doing some more streams on my Twitch. I am like multi-streaming right now, so I do have my YouTube stream up and the Twitch stream up. I can't see my YouTube chat in Streamlabs, so I actually just keep my YouTube stream up so I can actually read the comments on there. But yeah, if you guys do have any questions, there is a Discord. I have the link somewhere on my YouTube channel. Me actually go, or I guess I can just open up Discord, can I? Let's do this. Just for anyone that's new here that wants to join. Mostly Rails focused, but you know, you're free to hop on and ask view questions or anything. Let me see. Edit invite link. Expire never, I guess. Sure. Copy. Just paste this into Twitch, and I can paste it into the YouTube chat for anyone that's interested. But that's going to do it for me. Thank you for showing up, Clear. Yeah, I know you are. One of the VIP members. But I guess I'll see you guys next time. Thanks for hanging out. You've made it infinitely more entertaining. Do this, and then we can do this, hopefully.